Welcome back to the channel. In this video I am doing nothing but ranting because I'm sick and tired of what I have seen. And before we jump into this video, make sure you are subbed to the channel, turn notifications on, and if you want to support me as a creator, there are channel memberships, Patreon and a merch store you guys can take a look at in the description. Remember, all of that stuff is optional, and without further ado, let's jump into it. For the majority of today, being the 13th of June on a Sunday, and what I also saw on Saturday, what we're probably going to see on Tuesday, and it never got any better. Throughout this entire E3 and Summer Game Fest presentation, the best thing to be there was Xbox. They have their own first-party games, but they're not known as like a publishing company like Gearbox, like Bethesda, like Square Enix. Bethesda's obviously part of Xbox, like Ubisoft. We know those companies as publishers. We see Xbox as a gaming platform. Obviously they do publish stuff. So we're going to start off with Summer Game Fest, and I'm going to be completely honest, I got really lazy with this stuff towards the end because I just lost so much interest. I couldn't be bothered by the end of it. I might as well reword that and say, I got to the end of it and I just felt like I can't be bothered anymore. So there we go, nice little merch plug. But yes, Summer Game Fest, it was mostly indie titles, and do not get me wrong with this. I see the ambition, I see the creativity and the art design, the gameplay cycles, but it's just not appealing for most of these games. You go to the market for games. I love indie games, absolutely love them. Simulators, indie games, all them sorts of games I absolutely love. But you have to have a really, really interesting, appealing concept to show people. You can't go around in 2021 showing a 2D side-scrolling game. It's just going to have a very niche audience, and those sorts of games are probably built from passion. But there's a reason the companies making these games are not the big giant money-making companies like Bethesda, like Gearbox, Ubisoft, Square Enix, all those sorts of companies. Because those games, as I said, niche audiences. For those sorts of games, you're probably going to release a couple of thousand copies, make a little bit of profit, move on to the next one. You'll have like a die-hard fan base. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but my reason behind moaning about it is because you come to E3 every single year to see the biggest and the best of what is to come within like the next year or two for gaming. The majority of this entire, I'm going to say gaming fest, or festival, whatever, the majority of it has just been indie stuff that does not look interesting at all. There was a game on the PC gaming show that was like 4-player battles in these weird made worlds, and you have a radius around you, and there was a fucking snail as a character that was picking up buildings and throwing them. And yeah, it's going to be fun, but there's not going to be a lot of sales, and especially if these games are online, you're going to struggle to find matches. It's just going to be irritating to play this sort of thing. For the Summer Game Fest, mostly indies, there were a couple of decent looking games. I love the look of 2 Point Campus, the Jurassic World Evolution 2. I think they looked fantastic. There was maybe one or two more that I liked the look of, I just can't remember them off the top of my head. But then, it's a gaming show, hence the name Summer Game Fest, and there were music performances. I'm not there to watch music stuff. I don't give a shit about music. I want to see games. But there were a couple of music performances. I ended up taking a break and I went and had a fag and grabbed a drink because I don't give a shit. I don't want to watch that. And then what else happens? Game Fest. We've already had music. We're then going to get movie stuff. Don't get me wrong, can't wait to watch Free Guy with Ryan Reynolds, but there's just too much movie and music stuff. Far too much of it. So I'm going to rename that and I'm going to call it the Summer Snooze Fest because that's how I felt. And remember, this is my personal opinion. Whether you agree or disagree, let me know your thoughts in the comments how you felt about all of this. But then we're going to move on to the Gearbox part of it, and I'm going to say this was the worst show of the entire event. I've seen people saying this was the worst presentation in the history of gaming presentations. That's how strong some people are feeling. because I watched it back from like YouTube channels and stuff after the event. I didn't watch it live, but the entire event was like the Gearbox part of it was like half an hour long. They spent 10 minutes, which was a third of their show, banging on about the Borderlands movie. Remember, this is E3 gaming stuff. It's like when, who was it on stage announcing the Xbox One years and years back? They said it's going to be a fantastic multimedia console. No one gave a shit. The reason we buy gaming consoles is to play games. If you want to watch movies and stuff, go and buy a fucking Blu-ray player or something. But then they showed Tiny Tina's Wonderland, and they spoke about how it's inspired by some of the Borderlands stuff, which is obvious, it's fucking Tiny Tina. But then the only thing they mentioned was, we have wyverns and we have goblins, and that was it. Then there is a game called Tribes of Midgard, and it's Viking stuff that we've seen a million times lately. There just seems to be so much of it recently, it's starting to get annoying. It's getting almost to the point of a similar amount of saturation as Battle Royales. That's how it feels to me. I don't mind the games here and there, but there are so many of them. And this is one that you can play solo. However, it's recommended that you bring along 9 friends to play with. The game will be easier the more people you have, and this is 10-player co-op. And I don't think there's matchmaking or anything like that. I'm not 100% sure on that. And not only that, if you pre-order, you get these outfits, and instead of having pre-order our game, get this outfit, PlayStation and Steam have completely different outfits. But then they spoke a load of shit about Gearbox University. That bollocks kept popping up all the time. And then, are you guys ready for this? How fantastic is this? You ever heard of a game called Godfall? It released in November 2020 for the PlayStation 5 and PC through the Epic Games Launcher. Well, it's coming to PS4. They're taking it backwards in time with the platforms that it's going to be available for. And I'm going to say it's a failed game. They have no players, and they are trying to use this, we're releasing the game on PS4 to suck more people into the trap, because they've got all these expansions and stuff that are coming with it. And, would you believe, 7 months after launch, they're releasing a matchmaking beta. And I'm going to say that's because the game's failed so miserably. But not only that, Solo had server issues at launch because it's an online-only game, like an always online game. And I actually played it and refunded it, thankfully, through Epic Games when it first released, because the servers were so fucking bad. And another thing to add on top of that, how do we know Godfall flopped? In the first month of launch, they had a 25% sale. There's another game, I don't know too much about it, but it's called Homeworld, and the remastered collection or whatever, they wouldn't stop banging on about that. Then you had Randy Pitchford say, after all the games were shown, I hope you had an awesome presentation from all the Gearbox games in development. There were like 2. You had Homeworld 3 and Tiny Tina's Bollocks. That's all you had. And then Randy Pitchford and Kevin Hart cringed, like, it was so cringy to watch. They spent like another 3 minutes tossing each other off about the Borderlands movie. Just everything was about that fucking movie. Yeah, we get it. You're making a Borderlands movie. Now shut up, make it, then let us watch it. You don't need to come to E3 to promote it that much. Show some games. They have Gearbox Publishing for a reason. Get some more developers in, make some more games. And then we're moving on to Ubisoft and their E3. There was so much walking, riding and driving just across open worlds of emptiness in the pre-show. There was lots of talking, like loads of segments of developers and stuff talking. There was far too much TV and music stuff for a gaming company again. And I know these companies are branching out or whatever, but again, E3 gaming, I don't care about TV and movie. There was absolutely nothing about Beyond Good and Evil 2, Skull and Bones, or the Settlers game. Yeah, they're working on several games, with 3 of them launching within a month. You have Riders Republic September 2nd, Rainbow Six Extraction supposedly September 16th, and you have Far Cry 6 October, is it 7th or something like that? It's very close to being within a month of each other. But another thing is Far Cry 6 has a season pass, so on top of your, and actually, I think the season pass would come included. Like, you get the Ultimate Edition, £100 or whatever. That's going to come with a season pass, just so that you can use characters from the older games. Yeah, because that's the only content they have. And like, it just seems as though they're doing exactly what Watch Dogs Legion have done. And obviously, it's the same publishing company as Ubisoft. But I mean, to go through Watch Dogs Legion and see, oh, look, they're bringing Aiden Pearce back and everyone gets excited. They've now done the same thing with Far Cry, when Aiden Pearce has not only taken a very, very long time, still not actually right now available in the game, But the first character they released, called Mina, came into the game with a shitload of bugs. So how do we know any of this is actually going to work and be fun? Because that's what these games are supposed to be. And then Massive Entertainment were not supposed to show anything, but they were there, and instead of their nearest releases, Eves actually gave them a nice little introduction, and they showed off Avatar Frontiers of Pandora. And I'm concerned about that game. I've done a separate video on that. There will be separate videos for some of this other stuff. I just need to get around to doing it. But yeah, they showed Avatar, and I'm so confused about it, because the Division 1 and 2 are third-person games, and Avatar is first-person. But not only that, it's exclusive to the next generation of consoles, and it's Massive Entertainment. They're going to fuck it up in some way, aren't they? But then we went to the Xbox and Bethesda E3 show, and it was by far the best show, with lots of great games that are coming to Game Pass on day one. It's honestly been the best thing in this entire E3 event by a long shot, purely because of Game Pass. Game Pass has so much value, and when you look at what's coming up from the E3 presentation, you have things like Forza Horizon 5 that's coming to Game Pass on day one when it releases. But it's not just Forza, there are so many things. However, I want to know where the fuck State of Decay 3 is. And I want to know why Forza Horizon 5 is releasing before the next Forza Motorsport. I think they said there's still a lot of work to do with Forza. But not only that, Halo, a lot of people are going to be happy. The multiplayer is going to be free to play. I don't care about multiplayer personally. I hope there's a co-op campaign. That's the only thing I'm really interested in with Halo. But yeah, there are a lot of people are obviously going to be happy that the multiplayer is completely free. But yeah, the Game Pass, if you bundle it in with your Xbox Live, you get Game Pass Ultimate, you've got Game Pass on PC, Game Pass on Xbox, and your Xbox Live membership. It's typically about £100 to £120 a year or something, so it's expensive, but the value you get out of it is insane. For an example, Outriders, it was Game Pass on day one. Apparently Battlefield 2042 is going to be as well. So yeah, there is so much value. You get £60 titles. They're not always added in. Like, I'm not saying this because they're added in, like, oh, you get 2 new games a week and all this sort of stuff. They do have a lot of good titles on there. And because they're partnered now, Xbox are partnered with Bethesda, you've got the Fallout games, Starfield's going to be exclusive. There was another one, I completely forgot what it was. I think it might have been Redfall or something like that. That's going to be exclusive. Xbox have really picked up over the last few years, and I'm so glad, because that's the platform I play on. But obviously PlayStation have their own stuff. I'm not trying to start a console war. I'm not a fucking child. Just everything is personal preference. You want to play on Stadia, play on Stadia. You want to play on Xbox, play on Xbox. PlayStation, Nintendo, Nintendo, whatever. It is what it is. People do whatever they want to fucking do. I'm just saying that Xbox, I'm glad they picked up, because they did a lot of slacking. They had absolutely nothing. When it comes to the Xbox One, they flopped hard. PlayStation 4 absolutely wiped them out of the park. But now they're picking up. They've got Bethesda. There's a lot of good games coming to Game Pass. I'm so glad they're doing what they're doing, because what's the point of having Game Pass and charging for it if you're not having good games come into it? I'm glad they're trying to just keep it like fresh with new titles and stuff. And I'm going to stop there, because it's going to start to sound like I'm fanboying over it. I feel there's a lot of value in Game Pass. And I mean, at some point in the future, it might expand to PlayStation. You never know what they're going to do. It might not be like exclusively Xbox Game Pass. We never know. But yeah, I strongly feel that the Xbox presentation was by far the best. Then moving over to Square Enix, my fucking god, this was another really bad one. When I say really bad, I'm talking, I think it was Final Fantasy 1-6 remastered for mobile, which I really I couldn't stop laughing. I think it's pathetic that after all these years, they're going to remaster like the first 6 games and go, here you go, sell them on mobile. We want to make all that mobile fucking microtransaction money. But not only that, their show was full of remasters. And then we had Guardians Out of the Galaxy. The game is such a fucking shambles in terms of the way it looks, the way it plays. All you see on the left-hand side is fantastic, great, amazing. It's all combo fucking building. You're supposed to be in a Marvel universe. It's all set on the comics again. It's just the Guardians of the Galaxy DLC for Avengers, realistically. Or they should have just made one big Marvel thing and released Avengers, Guardians of the Galaxy, all these things separately, just under Marvel branding. They shouldn't have made them standalone games, because this game looks like shit and it's probably going to play like shit too. One of the first enemies we got to see was a fucking block of jelly, like a cube of jelly. And then these other creatures that look like they're going to open up their heads and you're going to grab your ponytail and avatar and fucking link up and tame them. Them weird things, whenever you hit them, your frames are going to another planet. Even in the presentation, there were frame drops on these fuckers. Not only that, the dialogue, it's all over the place. Like, the characters seem to get angry with you. But not only that, what did we get to see at the end of it? There are skin packs probably going to come to the game. So, Square Enix are at it again, where you've got like over £2,000 worth of Avengers skins that are just recolours on the Marvel's Avengers game. They're probably going to do the same thing with Guardians of the Galaxy. We didn't get to find out if it's single player or co-op or anything like that. As I said, based on the comics, so the characters just don't look anything like I feel they should. Drax, for an example, is this puny fucker, and I would like one of these games to come out and be based on the movie, because Drax is an absolute beast. He's played by Dave Bautista and he's an absolute monster. Yeah, he just looks like shit in this game. And then what else did we get? The Marvel's Avengers, War for Wakanda, Black Panther expansion. And I mean, from the last time I saw him, Black Panther's put on a lot of fucking pounds. He was beefy as shit in his suit. And the only thing that's really putting me off it at the moment, because we only got a small glimpse of it, the thing that's putting me off is the last expansion we had was for Clint, so Clint Barton, Hawkeye, and the entire DLC lasted 2 hours. I know it's free, it comes into the game at no additional cost or whatever. How long is it going to last? It looks to be one of their biggest expansions, but I can't see it lasting longer than a few hours, and what's the point? The player base is dead for the game as it is. They're struggling to keep 500 concurrent players on Steam, and they have been for weeks. But yeah, after that, bearing in mind Square Enix wasn't live, it was actually a premiere, so it was pre-recorded stuff, just put up for live chat to be enabled sort of thing. And at the end of it, after they had done their show, there was like a solid 5 minutes of pointless outro stuff. And I kept it playing because I thought, okay, Outriders, hello, we want to see what's happening with the game, but obviously People Can Fly just don't give a shit, so they was never going to show anything anyway. There was absolutely no news on Outriders. The only thing we've had on that game is, new content coming, shoved in the top right corner in like fine print in the appreciation package post. But yeah, there was 5 minutes of pointless outro shit on Square Enix. And then Devolver Digital, the only thing I can say, because I gave up watching that one, it was half games. It was similar to the Gearbox one. There was half games, and half of it was weird-ass segments of the employees acting like they've just sniffed some stuff that you really shouldn't sniff as a human. They are some weird and wacky fucking company. And I actually saw a lot of people in the chat, because I can't remember which channel I watched it on, but there were people in the chat saying Gearbox did this exact same thing, and people are moaning about Gearbox, but they're not moaning about Devolver Digital. And I feel people should, because Devolver Digital was just fucking... It was the... I'm gonna say it was the trippy version of Gearbox. That's all Devolver Digital was, with some weird ass looking games. And then it got to the PC gaming show, and my fucking god, I gave up. I said to Pete, I've watched all of these with Pete. Besides the Gearbox one, the Devolver Digital one. So me and Pete have watched the Square Enix, the Xbox, the Ubisoft, and the Summer Snooze Fest. And then the PC gaming one, and I said to Pete, I can't fucking do it anymore. There's just... These games, as me and Pete say to take the piss out of them, they're graphically challenged. The games they have such a unique sort of creativity behind them and all that sort of stuff, and they don't look appealing. Like, I don't know what would give me the incentive to go and pick these games up. As I said, like, there are like 2D side-scrollers that would have looked cool in the 90s. There was even another game after Knockout City based on Dodgeball. Dodgeball hasn't been around as a big thing in years. Like, what are you expecting to make profit? Like, you're a business. Whether you're making a game for passion or not, at the end of the day, you're a business. You still need to make a profit. So creating games like this, it's got levels for your characters or whatever, and it's just like a 3-on-3 sort of, I don't even know what to call it. You've just got your typical dodgeball arena and you're just chucking balls at each other, and it just looks like shit. I have no fucking interest for games like that at all. So yeah, I gave up with the PC gaming show, and I don't think I'm going to watch any more. I might do, I'm not saying it for definite, but then there's one thing I want to talk about at the end, and I know there's been so many fanboys. Oh, you can't talk about Battlefield. Battlefield's our baby. Please don't talk shit about Battlefield. We've not seen the gameplay yet. We don't know anything about it, but I've already given my pre-orders in. I've put them in. I've given EA another £120 for a load of live service bollocks. We saw gameplay today. And I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not saying it was fantastic. There are some things they look very, very odd, especially for a Battlefield game. The thing that pissed me off with it, we are how far away from launch? The game launches, supposedly, if you're standard edition, it's October the 22nd. If you're buying the deluxe, or if you're buying the ultimate edition, you get to play a week early. So we'll say you're buying one of the big boy editions, the ones that are just going to dip into your wallet even further and fuck you over even more. You get to play on October the 15th. So we are currently 4 months away from the launch. And all they had to show us for their gameplay reveal was pre-alpha footage. So this stuff was before the alpha stuff. You have alpha, beta, release. This was pre-alpha, before alpha. It did look quite impressive, especially for pre-alpha gameplay, but you need to show at least alpha stuff. Realistically, I would have shown beta gameplay, especially with betas coming up. People want to know, what are we going to be jumping into? They want to get hyped for it. They did all this massive fucking CGI cinematic trailer or whatever, and then they go, oh, here you go, here's some pre-alpha gameplay. They've got some weird-ass grappling hooks in there, you can call in the tanks and stuff. It does look cool, and I should have cleared this up when I did my previous rants about Battlefield. I'm not saying DICE are going to make a bad game. I'm not a fucking COD fanboy. Let me clear that one up as well. I've actually played more Battlefield games than I have COD. I absolutely love what they do with the gameplay cycle. The Battlefield 4 Levolution. I even enjoyed Hardline, which a lot of people absolutely hated. When that game first launched, breaching charges overpowered as shit. I would place them down at the side of the road, blow all the vehicles up. A lot of fun. I've played every single one, even the ones that didn't look too appealing to me personally, like Battlefield 1 and Battlefield 5. I've still picked them up and I've played them. But like Battlefield 5, like Anthem, EA have this habit of going, our live service model isn't working too great, we want to pull the plug. We're not making enough money from this shit. So I have a bad feeling that if Battlefield 2042 doesn't have a good reception, EA are just going to give up with it. But not only that, because I'm not saying that DICE are making a bad game. They've probably made fantastic maps and everything. The combat is probably going to be brilliant. It's EA that will bring this shit down. DICE should have separated from EA and published their own game, or found a different publisher that isn't currently trying to drag everyone over to Ultimate Team modes of their sports games to make billions and billions. Not only that, they've just recently lost almost a terabyte. I think it was closer to 800 gigabytes of their coding and stuff, their source coding and everything like that, basically data. They've lost almost 800 gigabytes worth of data. So the stuff that these developers work on isn't necessarily secure. EA are a shambles of a company. They're an absolute fucking disgrace. The amount they rip their players off. And if you look at the stuff that's coming with Battlefield 2042, the stupid weapon charm looks like shit. The other things that come with the bigger editions just look terrible. They don't look worth the extra money you're paying. And the fact that they have said to DICE, we want you to do this on a season pass basis, where you have these different specialists and maps releasing later on, because we really want to take full advantage of that live service model. That's what pisses me off and makes me angry with Battlefield, because I will buy the biggest edition of the game. I will play the shit out of Battlefield. And yes, I'm talking Battlefield's 2042. I'm angry with EA ripping off the consumers. And I don't care if you're the biggest fanboy that the companies have ever had. You need to open your eyes, grow a fucking backbone, Get a bit of self-respect and don't let these companies mug you off. And before you say, oh yeah, but you're buying the biggest edition of the game, blah, blah, blah. It's my job to cover this sort of stuff. I buy these editions to see what you get and see if it's worth it. Do my reviews, do my rants. I do it so that you guys don't have to. So don't be a fucking idiot. Don't just chuck your money into EA and waste your money. Wait until you've seen proper gameplay. Wait until you've had hands-on with a beta. Don't just base it all purely off the pre-alpha or their cinematic CGI trailers. Don't be a moron. This is your money that's at risk. These companies don't care. They're making billions yearly. But what we're going to do, it's a very, very long rant. 31 minutes of recording. I have no idea how long it's going to be when I cut it all down. I don't know what's going to be in the background. I might just put the muted Xbox thing in the background because that was my best sort of event from E3. And I will be covering stuff separately based on games I like the look of, games I think look complete shit, all that sort of stuff. So there will be separate videos, but I won't be doing any more of the events. Like, you won't see what you did with Ubisoft where I did the reaction to the event. You won't see that for any of them. I've deleted all the footage because I just can't be fucking bothered to edit through it all. Half of it it wouldn't have been interesting to watch. I was just sitting there, oh, graphically challenged, oh shit, oh yeah, don't like the look of this, oh, this one looks quite cool. And yeah, there was no point uploading that stuff. So separate videos and things you will see. But other than that, we're going to leave the video there. Let me know your thoughts and stuff in the comments and I'll see you in the next one. I hope you guys enjoyed it.